Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I am Muneeb Hamid with the news of this hour. Let's begin with the headlines first. The death toll from COVID-19 in Brazil has topped 80,000 with 632 deaths in the past 24 hours. With more than 2,200 new cases, the countrywide infections have crossed 2.1 million. In the United States, the number of deaths is nearing 141,000 with more than 3.8 million people testing positive so far. In Pakistan, more than 5,600 people have lost their lives to the virus, with over 40 deaths overnight. 1,013 new cases were recorded, with the tally crossing 266,000. The virus has cost over 609,000 lives worldwide while infecting more than 14.6 million. European Union leaders have reached a deal on an $859 billion post-pandemic recovery package. The package offers grants and loans to the 27-nation bloc to counter the economic fallout of COVID-19. The deal was reached after a marathon summit that started on Friday in Brussels. And in football, the Wolves beat Crystal Palace by 2-0 in a Premier League clash at an empty Molineux Stadium. With this victory, the Wanderers have moved up to 6th place on the points table. News in detail after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Now, the death toll from COVID-19 in Brazil has topped 80,000 with 632 deaths in the past 24 hours. With more than 2,200 new cases, the countrywide infections have crossed 2.1 million. In the United States, the number of deaths is nearing 141,000 with more than 3.8 million testing positive so far. The virus has cost over 609,000 lives worldwide while infecting more than 14.6 million. More in this report.
While the world waits for a vaccine, COVID-19 continues to surge in the Americas, parts of Africa, and South Asia. American states of Florida, California, and Texas are the ones worst hit by the second wave, with over 60,000 infected in the country every day. Australia has extended its jobs support program as new coronavirus outbreaks threaten the economy.
So our plan for those who aren't in a job is to help them get into a job or train them for a job. Our plan for those who are on JobKeeper in a business that is still eligible for that is to maintain that support.
2 more cabinet ministers have tested positive in Latin America's worst-hit Brazil as President Jair Bolsonaro sticks to his stance against lockdowns. Colombia is now dealing an aggressive spread of the virus as cases and deaths in the country peak.
The
most challenging moments of the pandemic are coming, those which will put us all to the test as people, as a society, as a country. But I am certain that the same resilience that has strengthened us in the past will do so once again, and we will continue being the strong nation that the whole world knows us as.
Meanwhile, 11 new COVID-19 cases have been reported on the Chinese mainland, with 8 domestically transmitted. South Korea reported more than 40 new cases due to cluster infections tied to a nursing hospital in the capital city.
Pakistan has reported 40 deaths from COVID-19 in the past 24 hours, raising the total to 5,639. The Health Ministry says 1,013 new cases were reported overnight as the tally crossed 266,000. Officials said more than 208,000 people have recovered from the virus so far. The ministry said there are now more than 52,000 active cases in the country. Sindh is the worst hit province with over 113,000 infections, while Punjab has reported more than 90,000 cases. Meanwhile, European Union leaders have reached a deal on an $859 billion post-pandemic economic recovery package. The package offers grants and loans to the 27-nation bloc to counter the economic fallout of COVID-19.
After a marathon summit that started on Friday last week, European Union leaders have finally found common ground. The $2,100 billion budget and the Coronavirus Recovery Fund allocates $1,241 billion reconstruction of EU post-pandemic. French President Emmanuel Macron has hailed this as a historic change in Europe. European Council President Charles Michel said this agreement sends a concrete signal that Europe is a force of action. After being criticized for creating roadblocks in the deal's approval, the Dutch PM Mark Rutte said the relations with the bloc remain strong, despite earlier difficult negotiations. German Chancellor Angela Merkel says the Recovery Fund shows the bloc is capable of acting jointly, even during its biggest crisis.
Moving on now, the Afghan government says 20 army personnel have been killed in 3 different attacks in Kunduz, Badghis and Maidan Vardak provinces. In a series of tweets, the Defense Ministry said 8 army personnel were killed after a suicide bomber targeted their convoy in Maidan Vardak. It said 9 others were wounded in the attack in Syedabad district of the province. This comes after Kabul said the Taliban killed 12 Afghan troops in Kunduz and Badghis attacks. The Taliban have only claimed responsibility for the Kunduz attack. Spokesperson Zabihullah Mujahid said the fighters also destroyed 2 tanks of the Afghan forces. Syria claims it has thwarted an Israeli air attack above the capital, Damascus. State media said Israeli missiles came over the Syrian Golan Heights, targeting areas around the capital. A Syrian military spokesperson said the air defense shot down most of the missiles. The spokesperson said some projectiles inflicted only material losses. Eyewitnesses said loud blasts were heard in the capital, which shook windows of several neighborhoods. There was no immediate comment from the Israeli officials. Moving on, Egypt's Foreign Minister Sami Shoukry says Cairo rejects any unilateral moves by Israel to annex parts of the occupied West Bank. Shoukry said this in a meeting with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas in Ramallah. In a statement, Egyptian Foreign Ministry said Shoukry affirmed Cairo's support for the Palestinian cause and the rights of the Palestinians. The 2 leaders discussed steps and means to allow for resumption of peace efforts under a 2-state solution. Abbas expressed his appreciation for the support of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and his leadership to the Palestinian cause. Shoukry's tour began on Sunday with a visit to Jordan's capital, Amman, where he met with King Abdullah. In Egypt, the parliament has authorized President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi to deploy troops to Libya after its tribal leaders sought Cairo's intervention. In a statement, the parliament said the troops will target criminal militias and foreign terrorist groups. Egypt's House of Representatives unanimously approved the plan after a closed-door session. Earlier, el-Sisi and the U.S. President Donald Trump agreed on the need to maintain a ceasefire in Libya during a telephonic conversation. In a statement, Egypt's presidency said both leaders also agreed to avoid an escalation between the forces fighting in Libya. Meanwhile, Turkey demanded an immediate end to the support for Khalifa Haftar after trilateral talks in Ankara between Libyan, Turkish and Maltese officials. The Turkish Defense Ministry says 2 of its soldiers have been killed in a terrorist attack in southeastern part of the country. In a statement, the ministry said the terrorists attacked the area of a military base with rockets in Hakkari province. It said the wounded soldiers were taken to a hospital where they succumbed to their injuries. After the attack, security forces launched an operation against the terrorists with combat helicopters and armed unmanned aerial vehicles. The statement did not specify what terrorist group was behind the attack. Now, China says it will resolutely respond to United Kingdom over its interference in Beijing's internal affairs, which contravenes international law. Chinese embassy in the United Kingdom said Britain has repeatedly made wrong remarks on Hong Kong's national security law. This comes after the UK suspended its extradition treaty with Hong Kong indefinitely. UK Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab said earlier arrangements between the 2 countries will not be reactivated unless there are clear safeguards which are able to prevent extradition from the UK being misused under the new national security legislation. United States Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has departed for a visit to the United Kingdom and Denmark, with China and Huawei expected to be on the agenda. Last week, Pompeo took fresh aim at China, saying the US will impose visa restrictions on Chinese firms like Huawei. But Pompeo said Washington remained hopeful China will complete its requirements under Phase 1 of the trade deal. United States-China ties are at the lowest ebb in decades, with relations strained over the global coronavirus pandemic. Now, South Korea has launched its first military communication satellite into space atop a SpaceX Falcon 9 Block 5 rocket in Florida, United States. The South Korean Arms Procurement Agency says the launch makes Seoul the world's 10th country to own a dedicated military satellite. The Defense Acquisition Program Administration said the satellite successfully communicated with the Space Operations Center in France after launching. It said the satellite is expected to reach its orbit of 36,000 kilometers in 2 weeks. The project is part of an offset package for South Korea's purchase of 40 F-35A fighter jets from Lockheed Martin in 2014. Lockheed subcontracted the satellite manufacturing deal in 2016 to Airbus. Russia says its military drill in the country is not against other nations, nor is it linked with the recent Armenian-Azerbaijani conflict. At least 150,000 soldiers are participating in the combat exercise that will end on July 21st. In a meeting with the foreign diplomats in Moscow, Deputy Defense Minister Alexander Fomin said the drills are aimed towards improving Russia's surprise combat readiness. He added the joint teams performed tasks to eliminate the consequences of technological accidents. Over 26,000 units of arms and military equipment, 414 aircraft, 106 ships are engaged in the drills. More news coming up after a short break. Stay tuned. In the United States, Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden has vowed to include Muslim Americans in his administration if he wins the November election. Speaking at a webinar to Muslim American voters, Biden said he will end the travel ban, seeing as targeting Muslim majority countries. Biden said that Muslim Americans were the first to feel the assault from Donald Trump's harsh policies. The Democratic nominee said he wished Americans were taught more in schools about the Islamic faith. Several elected Muslim Americans have endorsed Biden for president in a letter organized by MKage Actions ahead of the summit. Minnesota Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison, and Indiana Congressman Andre Carson were among the signatories. President Donald Trump has threatened to send law enforcement personnel to major U.S. cities to counter anti-racism protests. He said New York, Chicago, Philadelphia, Detroit, Baltimore, Oakland and California are possible areas for sending in federal forces. Officers last week began cracking down on Portland protests against police brutality and systematic racism. They used tear gas and took some activists into custody without explanation. State and local leaders in Oregon, as well as the members of the Congress, have called for Trump to remove Department of Homeland Security officers from Portland. But Trump says the protesters are anarchists who must be handled through the troops.
More federal law enforcement, that I can tell you. In Portland, they've done a fantastic job. They've been there 3 days, and they really have done a fantastic job in a very short period of time. No problem. They grab them, a lot of people in jail. They're leaders. These are anarchists. These are not protesters. People say protesters. These people are anarchists. These are people that hate our country, and we're not going to let it go forward.
Well, despite a national outcry over the tactics, Department of Homeland Security officials said they will not back down and won't apologize. Now, moving on, United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Gutteres has urged Azerbaijan and Armenia to exercise maximum restraint after border clashes in Tavush region. Spokesperson Stephanie Dujarric says Secretary-General is closely following the current tensions and is concerned for escalation in clashes. Gutteres said Gutteres believes the flare-ups can have disastrous consequences for the entire region. The neighbors have long been in conflict over Azerbaijan's breakaway, mainly the ethnic Armenian region of Nagorno-Karabakh. But the latest clashes are around the Tavush region in the northeastern Armenia, in which 11 Azeris and 5 Armenians have been killed. The escalation threatens stability of the region that serves as a corridor for pipelines transporting oil and gas from the Caspian Sea to the global markets. Asia-Pacific markets are mostly trading higher after investor sentiment was supported by a slew of positive news on the coronavirus vaccine front. In Japan, the Nikkei 225 gained over 0.5%, while the Topix index traded fractionally higher. South Korea's Kospi index is up by more than 1%, while Australia's benchmark ASX 200 added almost 1.5%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng index advanced over 1.5%. Chinese mainland shares bucked the positive trend in other parts of the region. The Shanghai Composite and Shenzhen Index both traded fractionally lower. Now in football, the Wolves beat Crystal Palace by 2-0 in a Premier League clash at an empty Molineux Stadium. With this victory, the Wanderers have moved up to 6th place on the points table. Striker Daniel Podence scored his first goal for the Wolves by nodding in from the close range. Casto Otto added the second one in the 68th minute to extend Wolves' lead. The home win has brightened the Europa League hopes for the Wanderers with one more game to play. In the day's other matches, Newcastle United played a goalless draw against Brighton, while Everton edged Sheffield United by 1-0. England beat West Indies by 113 runs in the second test at the Old Trafford to level the match series 1-1 each. Chasing a target of 312 runs, the visitors were bowled out for 198 runs. Shamara Brooks was the top scorer for West Indies with 62 runs. Other than Jermaine Blackwood and Brooks, no West Indian batsman was able to resist fiery England bowling. Ben Stokes was declared man of the match for his all-round performance. The last test match of the series will begin on the 24th of July. And now let's have a look at the weather updates across the globe. Well, that's all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus News. Take care.